and this is not after year 1, but after maybe 2, year 3, is allow them to come back and alter the size so that it actually fits their service delivery. So if they've got, if it's granddad and he hasn't got a whole lot of recyclables, then maybe he could go down a bin, or and maybe we could look at a smaller rubbish bin for people that have.
Well, I'm just wondering, would that not be a pertinent question to some of these other councils who have flicked over to get the feedback post changeover?
So that's the feedback they give us, is that don't roll out an interchangeable bin service straight away. You're going to have 22,000 different options. So once you've got it and set in place, then you let it bed in for a while, because we're looking at significant behaviour change to try and get you from the crate and the bag into a bin service and the food collection, all that sort of stuff. Let it bed in, then come back with some options to change and make sure that we're servicing everybody's needs.
I think they know when surveying if you're not going to be able to make a change.
Rachel, and then
thank you. So the engagement process so far has been, do you want to stick with status quo, bags, or move to bins?
Yes.
That's all the information we've gone out with. So the idea of today is for us to give you direction to then go and seek out some procurement and pricing.
Yes.
Do we then go back to the public and say, right, this is the cost?
Well, the idea is that we're going to bring the costs back to alongside the LTP, and for you to be able to go, here's now the service delivery option. Yeah.
But are we going to consult on that? Because it's all well and good to say, yeah, we love the bins, but they may not love the cost.
So I think we worked out that we were paying maybe $20 extra a year if you looked at what they pay now and then the bin set.
But we're moving away from a user pays, really, aren't we? And we're all going to be subsidising those who have a lot of rubbish. You know, myself, I put out maybe a bag every 2 weeks or 3. So it doesn't make economic sense for me. So I'm just thinking, lots of people have said, the bins are great, but they don't actually know what it's going to cost them yet. So do we go back?
The debate, when the costings come back through the LTP.
Absolutely. In the long-term plan consultation document, that will lay out the different options, and for each of those options, it will outline the impact on rates, and so that will be the advantages, the disadvantages. So in theory, that should all be very clear to the ratepayer, and then.
Quite a big document.
I've got lots of questions, but I'll start with just the survey. I think it's a blunt instrument.
Sure.
Because what I would have liked to have seen was broken down into areas. So you've got 900 who agree with it, you've got 300 who don't. But I can't see what areas, because I've had a lot of feedback from the outlying areas who say actually it's not going to work for us. So it would have been nice to see the breakdown.
We'll take that feedback on board. As I've said, I offer me up as a sacrificial lamb, because I'm keen to get down there and support the community to make sure that works for them. Really,
Cool.
Down the survey responses by area.
Do you?
No,
you don't.
I think we're in general acceptance of it, don't they?
Well, it would be good to poll the room actually, just to feel, just get a feel.
Who's vehemently against that?
The only thing I mentioned to Andrew is one glass bin a fortnight.
Well, we're not.
There's something in it. I'm not up to that one. So through you, Chair, we will get an option. I will price up an option for a second bin, so that we can understand if you want 2 glass crates, well, this is the additional cost.
Or is food waste and glass bin weekly.
And Taupō, after a windy night, it's an absolute mess, chaos for your team.
So we contain in there, David.
Certainly will. Just the other thing with the red one.
Yes.
Do you suggest a bin liner in it as well, or not?
No, don't have to have a bin liner. Yeah, it just has more plastic.
When I procured one from a private operator, they gave me bin liners as well.
Did they?
Saves a bit of smell.
They're very nice to you.
Yeah.
It's not compulsory to have a bin liner. It's plastic already.
Quite dirty after a while, but anyway.
Yeah, you could give it a hose out that way.
Can I just say one thing?
In your waste gathering.
Read.
Just one thing. I was up in Auckland on the weekend. Must have been bin day, the previous day, and you're absolutely going to get hammered by older people and mobility scooters, because all these bins are scattered around the footpath. I don't know. There's no way out of it, but they don't know it's coming. But that's absolutely.
Whether our contractor will work with the homeowner to make sure that we're setting these bins up in the right spot on the curb. We don't really want to be an issue for our for our elderly.
Well, I mean, it's you're wheedling your way through bins.
Yeah,
And it's operator slop. Okay, so the operator just dumps it back and he's in a hurry. I can't see how you can avoid it. So
You're gonna have a problem with our bin, our 240 litre bin.
What? Yeah.
The issue is if you have cars parking outside, so I used to come home and mine was always parked in the middle of my driveway. I'm coming down the road, I go to turn right, I've got the bin right in the middle of the driveway because there were cars parked on either side. But I just want to put my hand up about half yes and half no. So half my area thinks it's a great idea and the other half thinks it's a terrible idea. So I've got two hands up, I'm afraid.
I think the community.
So sorry.
I think from a personal view, I think that's makes sense. I think that's the way we need to be going, health and safety, all those reasons. Probably a little bit less geographically focused. I think we've got to look at the wider whole community.
The only feedback I get is totally, it's the Poakani ones. They used that. I don't know what sort of plastic it was.
Yeah.
But they're all broken.
Yeah.
A lot of them are broken.
Yeah. So
You'll suss it out.
well, just to give you a heads up through our procurement process, we will allow the contractor to purchase the bins because they'll be able to buy them probably cheaper than we can. We'll pay for them up the front. So obviously we'll be looking at what type of bin each tender is coming to front with and making sure that they meet the standard. Yeah, I probably will. The other thing that I've been telling you previously is that it's probably the food waste is probably going to go to one of these facilities. That actually might not be the outcome. If we get EnviroWaste, they have a composting program in Hamilton. If their rate to get it up there is cheaper than what these guys can give us a gate rate, then there might be an opportunity that material might disappear out of our community somewhere else into a different composting process. But we will analyse that at the time. You would think that would be the cheapest, but I can't guarantee that will be the outcome. Yeah.
From a sustainability point of view,
Yeah.
and you know, withdrawal would be the
Yeah.
Those people work and shop with us.
It really depends. It really depends from that perspective, and we can put some weighting on that, whether it's local or outside. But so EnviroWaste have got their own program, then they can accept that material at a cheaper rate to themselves and process it, as opposed to having to go to Ecogas, who might want $140 a tonne at the gate. If they can do a lot less than that, then we're actually saving a whole lot of money. Taking into account, you'd have to deduct the transport cost out of that. But if they come to us with a cheaper option, then I think we should look at that anyway.
How many tenders are we going to have?
I think probably 3 or 4.
3?
Yeah.
And have Scotty?
Scotty would be one of them.
Known as Mr. Rubbish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just remind.
Yeah, and Councillors.
Yeah, so the big players out there are EnviroWaste, Smart Environmental and Waste Management for contracting. So,
But it will be open, so just because we know about some, it doesn't mean that others aren't willing
players.
to be able to participate.
Sure. Yeah. Should we go to the next
Oh,
slide?
just a question, long term.
Yeah.
In the big picture.
Yes.
Well, the intention is to reduce waste.
Yes.
So we'll be saving money on landfill costs, won't we? Well, we must do because we haven't.
All that food waste is not going to go into the tip face.
Yeah. So we're saving money on the landfill costs. So I'm just saying, okay, if we go to that option, it's $20. Everyone's paying $20 extra. But we're saving money on landfills. On the landfills, so isn't that
it's a little bit of a rob Peter to pay Paul because we own the landfill, so any revenue that comes in the gates sort of comes to us anyway. But yes, you're right. If we don't put a ton of waste into the landfill, that means we don't have to pay the waste levy, $60. We won't have to pay the ETS cost, another $60. And then when I get to talk about the transfer station, that's another topic. Those are the drivers to be able to divert a whole lot of waste.
I was saying in the big picture, if you're just focusing on landfill costs,
you
might say, hey, you're not actually going to be paying $20 extra. The big picture, you're actually going to be saving $50 a year because we're not having to spend on the landfill. You can't.
It's
very difficult. Is that a bit tenuous?
Really tenuous, Duncan. There's so many rabbit holes from a revenue income output. Landfill cost. Transfer station, all of that. You can't actually tie that on. It's difficult. You could maybe, but it's So, okay, we've got some numbers.
Rachel, just quickly, you've got to.
Yeah, I was just going to say, look, I'm quite happy to follow the community's wishes here.
Okay.
And that I think we need to be very clear about what the cost is going to be.
Sure.
Because I think that people have pushed ahead with the bins because they don't fully understand what the cost of that can be. Because we're talking quite a lot added to rates at this point. 2, 3, 4%.
So the process is that what I've been suggesting that we should be doing is actually moving the cost of the service delivery to rates, and that would be so that the bin set that we put in to our community doesn't get undermined by the commercial market, who will compete against us with frequency of service, bin size, and price. And we can't change if we go to a rates funded user pays system for this, then there's a chance that they can undermine us.
We're taking that competition away from the end user though. So we're going to say it costs this, that's in your rates, that's it.
Yeah, but we can do it cheaper because we'll have sites across the whole service delivery. And if you look at those numbers up there, the community at the moment is paying like $7 million worth of private costs. So that's at them out there buying wheelie bin services at $56 or $60 a month.
But that's user pays.
Yeah, that's a user pays
and they have
price.
A choice over that.
Yeah, but we'll be coming in with a cheaper option for them. So if you look at that number there, that private cost goes significantly down. So that the overall cost to our community, if you looked at the option bin plus Great Fortnightly, we can take off $1.5 million off the community cost by providing an overall service which is cheaper.
But that's going to cost me a lot more.
That's
right. So you see, all I'm saying is
Yeah.
I understand that the community want us to look at bins.
Yeah.
Good. I think we should.
Yes.
That's what they want.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with the fortnightly
Yeah.
because that's the most economical
Sure.
option.
Yeah.
I would just like to see a lot of transparency about what it's going to cost people in their rates, because
Sure.
I don't think they've made the decision
Yeah.
that they like bins with a full complement of information.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah.
So look, one of the challenges, and I'll have this discussion plenty with Brent and the team as well, is that we've got, normally you'd have the private organisation and the public organisation competing on kind of aligned incentives. Here, the profit is in increasing the amount of waste if you're a private sector operator, because that's how you generate more revenue. Whereas what we want to do is reduce the amount of waste. So it's actually, we're in a really tricky position. There's a balance between public good and private good here, which we're also trying to balance. The challenge to the team is if we decide that the public good is 20% and the private good is 80% and try and split the cost that way, that's a good academic discussion to have. However, it's unfeasible to deliver a service, and that's where it starts to become a bit binary. So I know you've talked about this, and we've talked about rates funded versus user pays, and we've tried to find a middle ground. The problem is the advice and the experience is that it's almost impossible to deliver that service as a shared cost. So I think that'll come back, and I think the purpose of today's discussion is really just to go out, understand the cost, that the cost can come back and we can bring it to you in terms of actuals rather than
Then we can debate.
then you can debate this.
So just in terms of Rachel's comment, I think for transparency, if we did an incidence analysis, like, so if you were a consumer who doesn't have a lot of waste, this is the change for you. If you do, maybe just we're showing the difference between why we're moving away from bags. Yes, there's going to be a whole lot of it. I mean, I've got a sister who complains that she doesn't want to use bins because she's going to drag the bin through her scoria driveway. So she leaves the bin at my house. But I mean, you're going to have all of those people. We have people who's got small driveways, but people who got little fuddies. There's not going to be a perfect solution, but I think overall we should be also clear that, like Duncan said, better outcomes in terms of less landfill, better outcomes in terms of climate change type issues to be in kia ora. I think that also needs to be there. But I'm comfortable. Not everybody gets excited about long-term plans, but in terms of us doing our job properly, that's a process where they get to look at all these issues in one hit, and we'll see what the outcome is.
Sandra?
Yes, Brent, I have to ask you this. So is it going to go, is the cost going to go in the rates for every residential ratepayer?
Not, so what we're thinking of is having a split. So if you're an unserviced rural ratepayer, then of course the service is not going to apply to you. Currently, we've got one rate. So everybody, that's your rate. And that, if you're rural, then we say, well, you've got transfer station, you've got the same capability. Okay, it's not at the curb, but we've got that transfer station for you. What we're saying now is that, okay, well, you're going to stay with that rate, the people in the rural perspective, but the serviced properties will have a different rate. Yes. So not all properties will be charged the serviced rate if they're not serviced.
So if they're currently getting the service,
Yes.
they will be,
Yes.
they will be rated.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if they're currently not getting the service, obviously then
Yeah.
then they
Well,
won't.
we're doing a little bit of boundary stuff. We can, there's a slide in there. We'll talk about a couple of options for people.
Holiday homes are going to subsidise the rest of us.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what it is.
Just through the chair, probably not a conversation for today, but I'd be really interested in what it might look like if it was a part of the UAGC as opposed to general rates, but not a conversation.
Yeah, I was pretty much just going to jump in here and say, hey, we just need to think about, this is about cost and enabling Brent to take the next step in the process. We will come back for a conversation on revenue and financing policy in our finances, a little bit like we had with our CapEx program this morning. And another funding part. So we just got some options that we'll come back to you through that.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a supplementary question, sorry.
Yes.
If people don't want it, and I know that there will be lots of people out there that won't want it, can they just reject the bins? Just say, actually, we don't want the bins. They'll pay for it, but they can just say, actually, we don't want them on our yard.
Difficult, but
So you've got to deliver them to everybody.
Sandra, they'd be paying for them. I don't know.
Well,
why
no,
they wouldn't want to use
you
them.
can see them
Yeah.
saying, no, actually,
Yeah.
you know what, we've got to pay for it, but actually we don't want them.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
I think that's an issue that we'll have to get with once we get down the road there.
Taking them yellow bagging up to the
They will.
waste.
Well, yellow bags aren't us, remember? The yellow bags are Envirowaste.
But you-
Whether they choose,
Take them up the dump, no charge.
yeah, whether they choose to carry on with that service, is that, well, that's a service delivery that they would consider. You know, and I suppose if we said, oh, in fact, you know, let's go user pays. As soon as we set their price, they'll be looking at setting their price to see what they compete with. And just for interest's sake, Smart Environmental Thames went out as a user pays, and I think they didn't quite get their funding policy sorted out. They went out user pays, and Smart Environmental were picking up the council's bins and taking them back and providing a weekly service. So the competition is real. They're focused on making money out of waste, so providing additional capacity. And so that's why I'm saying a rate funded service as opposed to a user pay service for waste would provide you better outcomes. Yeah. Okay. Right. Cool.
Well, just the numbers, just back to that slide.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, so what you're saying is squash the competition, actually.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying what we want to do is provide a service that enables us to achieve our waste minimisation goals. It's not about competition. We're not allowed to get into that space, but it's certainly about council achieving its waste minimisation goals by providing a bin set that provides us with that outcome.
Yeah, I mean, based on this, if you just look at those numbers alone, option 3 stands out as the best option.
Yes,
and that's obviously not the outcome you're wanting.
Well, option 3, if you look at option 3, is your weekly service. So it's more expensive by 700k or 600k above the preferred fortnightly.
If you look at total system cost,
Yeah.
If you just take that into account, it's looking pretty swish compared to any of them, because you're getting a weekly service, and it's, I mean, if you just take that into account, don't take into account the landfills filling up quicker and stuff like that.
The actual net cost to council is more in that space. If you look at the top line.
Yes, the rate is slightly more.
Yeah.
But well, the private costs will be less.
So with a weekly service delivery, you're going to pay at this stage about 600,000-700,000 more. Plus, you're going to give people more waste capacity, and that's sort of not really where you want to do. You can save yourself easily 600,000 by providing a fortnightly service. And if you look across most of the councils, they've gone to that cheaper option. Reduces the truck numbers. It pushes you into minimising your waste stream, etc., etc.
That's half the point of this whole thing, actually. So that would be almost defeat half the purpose of the whole thing.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, I think we could Shall we move on from there? I can talk the numbers as we get there. So here's what we're suggesting as options to go out.
So we're keen for your direction, and this is just what we've proposed. But when it comes to the long-term plan consultation document, we need to present options to the community. And as I said before, we need to outline the advantages, the disadvantages, the costs, and all those sorts of things. And we also need to identify a preferred option. So we have suggested that we narrow it down to 2, but yeah, happy to take feedback on that. So we've identified the fortnightly collection for refuse and recycling with weekly collection during the peak periods. And that wasn't the preferred option from the community, but it was quite split. And we just felt that the fortnightly with the weekly over the peak helped to mitigate some of the issues that we've historically had over the summer period in terms of excess recycling volumes and all that sort of thing. So yeah, happy to take some feedback.
It's peak just summer. It's not anywhere else.
So the peak would run from mid December through to Waitangi weekend, I think we said. So yeah, taking care of that peak area where everybody's here, we'd chop it into a weekly service for everyone. Yeah.
How many ratepayers are we talking about, please?
I think it was around about just under 22,000. Yeah. Might be worth just having, because there's a couple of options we wanted to provide. There's a couple other bespoke things that we need to sort of talk about too, but we can get there. So the CBD gave us some feedback. Obviously a preference over bins in there. They were keen to move to have that 240 litre rubbish capacity, and that actually reflects what Rotorua is providing their commercial area. So our commercial CBD, from memory, goes up Kaimanawa Street, includes Te Tongariro. So that's our CBD collection. There's a number of satellite shopping centres that also would receive that service. So that's what we'd be looking to provide them. So a weekly service. We'll just talk about that one. Yep. So potential. Oh, sorry. Yep.
Just on a couple of those screens that says funded rates funding.
Yeah.
Is that the sort of look you're going to send out to the public?
No. So we'll so in terms of like the tables.
Yeah. It's just when I look at that, I go, oh, well, how cool is that? It's going to be included in my rates, and I'm thinking, hey, it's not going to cost me anything. And I just wonder with that wording on the previous screen as well needs to highlight the next one. Yeah, fully rates funded. Well, when I look at that, I think you're telling me I'm no longer going to have to pay for my rubbish collection.
Yeah, so that's a really good point. We we can make sure that we tweak the wording to make sure that the intent is clear. Yeah.
But if you think about it, if you put your wheelie bin out and it's rate funded, you're not buying that bag anymore.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's about perception that it looks like it's not going to increase rate because it's all right.
Okay. Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah.
That's what I've been trying to get at. Is that I don't think people realise their rates are going to go up as a result.
Yeah.
Look, just one other comment I'd make is that's going to have a direct impact on rentals.
Yeah, actually,
landlords are going to pass that on.
Well, initially you would think that that the bin service would become a cheaper option for rental properties, for the tenants, because initially they wouldn't pass it on. And so that actually might, in the short term, help our lower socioeconomic side of our community. Because, but even eventually, I think, Kevin, you're right. That's one. Yeah. Okay. So, just to talk about the waste minimisation levy really quickly. I know we're constrained for time. Waste minimisation levy we pay. We were paying $10 a tonne and went to $30 a tonne. We're now paying $50 a tonne. It's going to go up to another $10 per tonne. So we get overall 50% of that comes back to local government based on population. So we're suggesting that number that we currently get, which started off about 113,000 at $10, it's slowly increasing in cost, right? And we haven't spent all that money. So some of that's going to be held. We haven't actually appropriated some of that money in the future as for other waste minimisation things, and it is actually only allowed to be spent on waste minimisation. That's a government mandate. It's got to be hypothecated. So what?
Chair, so just to clarify,
Yeah.
population based, not ratepayer based.
Population based.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we get dealt to because we get a large impact over summer, and that also impacts our waste actual volumes because they don't count the statistics, don't count the waste volumes. So that's why we're a little bit higher. But what I'm saying is that we're going to have a little bit of money left over that we haven't spent, plus we're going to get some more, and so we could actually make a one-off payment to fund the upfront bin cost of 730k. Now that's an estimate. We haven't finalised exactly what that number is, and so are the numbers that we've provided in the actual costs under the $19 standard, because we've estimated it's used a model. It's not perfect. We'll get numbers back from the contractors. That might be a little different, but so we could potentially utilise that waste minimisation levy to be able to offset around about 390,000 a year to this program. And we've also already got a grant from the government to support the food waste rollout for 486,000. Now we haven't included those numbers in the overall cost of the services yet. Those are potential savings or potential subsidising of the service delivery that we can provide going forward. And we'll come back to you once we have got a better handle on the 730 and the 390 next year when we come back to the LDP. And I suppose from that perspective, we'll need you to make a decision whether you're happy to subsidise the program using that money. Yeah. Okay, next slide. Okay, funding. So we've talked a little bit about funding. I've been talking rates funded for quite some time. I think most of the country, there's a couple of outliers that haven't gone to rates, but rate funding enables you to put out a bin service that achieves your waste minimisation goals. Doesn't get alternative service delivery that potentially undermine it. And when we're talking rate funding, we're talking about the whole bin sled. No one out there is trying to use pays recycling or food waste. No, that's not happening. So the only difference would be then was a PAYT. Can you hit that next slide? Is the PAYT, some councils have utilised a PAYT process as pay as you throw for the bin stuff. Now, as soon as you do that, of course, you're going to get competition. So, and the problem with it, and what we've come back from the Commerce Commission, we've had some legal advice. Council can't use its power to rate fund some of the service delivery and undermine the marketplace if you go to PAYT. So what you might end up, and I said we'll get this word in, we're going to be potentially into a doom spiral where the cost of your bin is undermined by the market and you get less market share. So to pay for the cost of the service, the tag price has to rise up and you lose more market share and the tag price has to move until suddenly you're in a position where you haven't got any market share and the commercial market is pretty much providing all the waste service delivery and undermining the service. So that, for me, that's why we need to do this as a rate funded service.
I just see that like Teams Coromandel, they have $8
tags.
pay as you throw.
Tag.
Yeah.
Now Teams have gone and they didn't want to go to a PAYT. I think they needed to get their funding policy sorted out and didn't, so they've been forced into that. I think they're going to review. And Auckland have moving from a rate user pay system because of that exact thing. They've lost revenue and they can't fund the service. So they're having to move to a rate funded service to enable them to provide the service delivery. Otherwise, you would potentially have a truck driving all around the district and only picking up like a couple of tags here and there, and that they're going to go, well, it's not paying the bill. So you would end up potentially having to rate fund it, which then the competition out there would say, well, you sort of can't use that power to do that. So I think that pushes us into a rate funded service, and I think that enables us to have a bin set out there that, provides these options for minimisation. Yeah. Okay. What do we want for you today? Okay.
Sorry, Auckland is a rates funded.
Most of Auckland is rate funded. Because they amalgamated, they have a whole lot of different scenarios in that space, and they're moving whatever isn't on rate funded into rate funded now. Yeah. So what we're looking for today is some endorsement around the weekly and fortnightly service delivery, so we can go and get it priced. Is there any other options in there that you would like to look at? And that could be a straight fortnightly service. It might be a weekly service, the couple that we've thrown around.
Yes, well, I mean, I continue to be concerned about
Sure.
our areas that will be paying for a full bespoke service and probably only using it for a limited number of times during the year.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're going to get huge, kickback from the community on that. When somebody said to me they did a survey in their street the other day, and they've got 56 houses and 6 people are permanent on that street.
Sure.
And yeah, we get B&Bs and backscare and all that sort of stuff, but those people do seem to have managers who actually handle their rubbish and so forth themselves. So
Yeah.
that, wouldn't come into it. So, I suppose the only thing I could say that perhaps possibly give people the choice in the areas where there are holiday homes rather than maybe, I don't know, something not so big, not
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Sandra, if you're a batch owner
Yes.
and you're running those batch programs,
Yes.
wouldn't you therefore put the bin set out at the? when
No,
that
they
service
say
comes
it won't provide enough because they're, those Airbnbs in particular, they're just all
Yeah.
constant all the time. And
Yeah.
people do seem to leave more glass usually in
Yeah.
those places
Yeah.
than normal. And I have seen, one of the guys out there who's the manager, and his trailer is just piled high,
Cool.
After a weekend when he
Yeah.
goes around. So
Yeah.
I think it wouldn't.
Yeah. So one of the options we've got in there is tweaking our operational hours of our transfer station to make sure that it's available for those people.
You
We
talked
can-
about that before.
Yeah.
I think that's an extremely good idea.
Yeah.
And it certainly would be something that I think the holiday home owners in
Yeah.
particular. So when they're leaving in the summertime and they're not going till 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
they can actually drop off their rubbish. And even though they're paying for it, they're more concerned about getting rid of their rubbish
Sure.
appropriately.
Okay, I'm sure I can come down and we can work out a solution. Yeah.
You just have a collection bin, surely you wouldn't have the whole refuse centre open. That's
Well,
what I mean.
you've got to be careful putting any unmanned refuse, anything.
Oh,
It just turns into a dumping area disaster,
yeah.
is the feedback on that, unfortunately.
And look, in Ahopie and that, this system's been operating for a while.
Yeah.
We personally used it and it does work.
Yeah.
Great to have plastic bins out there.
Yeah.
Because, I know in our area, people put them out Sunday night, the plastic bags, and they're there for a couple of days and the dogs get to them so for holiday homes to have that bin to
Yeah.
put rubbish in, even if you get there and you're just adding to it and it's a fortnightly one, but to have the Christmas increase
Yeah.
weekly is a good thing.
Sounds like some agreement on that service. Yep.
I just thought of something now. I know, some people, hook them onto the tow bar,
Yes,
like a long
they do.
driveway.
Yes, they do.
But yeah, that's one way, but there's also, there's actually some gadgets, I've seen them for sale, to hook onto your tow bar to, just for specific,
That's a good service option if you've got a long driveway. And I know lots of people during the consultation phase have said, oh yeah, we've got them up, blah, blah, blah. We just hook it onto the tow bar and rip down to the road. So
Right, let's bring it back in terms of the options you want for inclusion.
I'm suggesting that the preferred option is the service delivery, which is fortnightly most of the year with a weekly peak.
Through the chair with food waste weekly.
With the food waste weekly.
So I think food waste is a non-optional thing that's mandated, so that's happening regardless.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And you have to do it weekly because that's the bit that takes the smell out. People aren't going to want that long lingering around their property for much longer.
So just so we're clear on what the options are, it's around whether it's a fortnightly with no peak or fortnightly with a weekly collection during peak time.
That's correct.
Those are the two options.
Yeah. Now, there are a couple of things that maybe we should just quickly touch on. So things like, there's a couple of places that aren't getting serviced at the moment. So we're actually out there asking if they want a service. And there's River Road, Bonchor Park and the industrial area. Because we've got a few residential properties in the industrial area. We haven't serviced, and we're talking Mairo, Manuka, Matai. And we haven't serviced them before because they were mostly industrial and they probably took the trailer to the landfill. But we're going to ask those people in a letter if they want to service. The other thing, we've got a Tirahonga Hall that we sort of need to sort out, and that'll be a bit of a conversation about what bin set we can provide. And then there's a multi-unit development. So we can't go to, if we think about the multi-unit development that's just down the road here, around the corner, couple of stories, there's no room for bin sets. We would come to them and do a bit of a bespoke, larger bin set, and to enable them to sort of have some place to be able to go and grab that outside. We wouldn't provide the service to the motels. We'd let them go to the market as they do. I don't think the owners of all those motels are going to want me coming into their front door and telling them how to run their waste business. I think the commercial market can provide that. So we're looking to set a bit of a limit in the multi-unit developments where 6 and below, you get the bin set, 6 and above will come and do some bespoke bin sizes based on, 140 per property plus that. So we can come with a different collection bin set and allow them to put it out the back of their large, multi-unit development, just because we don't have the room for the
Does that
bin
apply to
centre.
Turangi as well?
Yes, it would. If they,
So they currently get a service from you, so you're
Yes.
not gonna.
so if it's a holiday, if it's a
No, the motels. The
motels.
Yeah,
So most of the motels aren't using,
they are,
well, they are.
they are.
Yeah.
I drive past them, they are.
Yeah. But the difference in the motels is they want far more collections than we provide. So we provide a once a week. You'll find most of those motels have got the contractor coming in there.
They put out multiple
Yeah,
bins.
yeah,
down.
three,
Yeah.
3 or 4 times a week at least. You go to Manuel's, I can see the truck there at least daily. So those are bespoke services. We're going to roll out a sort of a one-stop fits most people. But we consider those commercial properties, just they can go to the marketplace. I don't think they want me turning up here to telling them how.
Just a quick question through the chair. You may have already mentioned it, but what about marae throughout?
Right, if they're in the collection area, yep, they'll get a service. Yes, they'll have a bin set. Yep.
In terms of your anomalies, you've got Meadow, Matai, including Taupō Street in that as well. Apartments there.
Taupō Street would just be, we'd be rolling out a bin set based on whether we think they're commercial or whether they're.
But you have apartments there as well.
Yeah. So we'd look at, we'd go to that apartment and go, hey guys, how many apartments have you got? Have you got room on the curb for your bin set? If you haven't, we might look at a different bin
And no
set.
change for Artiamuri.
Artiamuri gets the service delivery, that'd just be normal service. Yeah.
So, I'm sorry. I was just thinking, Taupō Point, we service the CBD.
Yes.
Taupō Point Shopping Centre, would look at including that.
We can change it if they want to change to a commercial service. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'd have to look at the collection map. Right, just to see if they're actually currently commercial collected or not. But that would change them. The only difference in change of service was instead of getting a bin set, they would get a 240 and get a weekly service. So so we might look at that if they are a commercial setup. Like if you look at all the little satellite shopping centres, they're in that weekly commercial service delivery setting as well. So we can look at that. Sure.
Just through the chair, when it comes to like our housing for the elderly plots. Do they have a bespoke service?
Yeah, so we'd go to we'll think about Somerset. I think they've already got a bespoke service.
About Canini Street. Our housing for the elderly, not.
Right, if there's room for each of them to have a bin set, and how many are there? Are there less than 6?
I know.
Yeah, okay, so bespoke service. We'd come and look at that and go, we can't fit 50 bins on the street. We want the truck to come in to an area, and we'll go, how many units have you got? Multiply that by so many of those and so many of those, and you'll come out with a bigger bin size.
Yeah, I think that's where internal working relationships will be really handy between Scott and Brent and work those things out too.
There's a bit of work to be done in that bespoke space. Haven't quite got there yet, but first of all, we've got to set sort of rules around it.
So Brent, on that multi-unit development, because I've done a few jobs up in Auckland, multi-unit, and I know the way they generally work. They've got like what's actually a waste management planning little section.
Yes.
And for example, and if you are submitting something, they've actually got a bit of a spreadsheet. You fill in all that information.
Yeah.
You've seen that.
We could use that. Yeah. I found it really difficult to bloody work through my first couple of glances.
No, I never thought of that.
Something like that. Yeah.
But if I know the general thumb, as I understand it, is it's all based on, like I say, you've got a 20 or 30 unit relevant, right?
Okay, I'll
Um,
call it back.
Oh, no, sorry, I'll just finish this.
I apologise, just stop.
well, why is that?
I'm gonna call it back because we need to move on. Thank you. We've got quite a few other presentations today. What is it you need from us so we can
Well,
get to a decision and then we'll move on?
yeah, okay, so all we're looking to do is affirmation around the service delivery that we want to go out and tender to. So that would be, my recommendation is we go out with a fortnightly service with a weekly peak.
Yep.
And get them to come back with some costs. Yeah.
Cool.
Currently, our model will be at action.
Sorry to throw a spanner in the works. Why can't they quote on both so that we can compare?
Yes, well, that's why we're here.
Because I think it would be good to have a comparison for people
Yeah.
to see. I'd like to see both crushed out.
So you'd like fortnightly and then the fortnightly with a peak?
Yep.
Of course.
Those are the two that we're going out to the public with, yes.
Yes, cool. Yeah, could do that.
Any other comment? Ken, where are we at?
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Welcome.
So I understand that you had to leave, is that right? Or was it?
Who has to leave now? Otherwise, one.
What's on?
We still have some, we still have to get through our parks and reserves and investments from Gateway and also around our transport.
So I guess you're saying that.
Can I just make a suggestion? We do have a workshop next Thursday. We will be coming to you with talking about our finance policies. If you want to get a few more of these done today, but we could transfer the rest of that conversation to next Thursday if
Oh, I do think, although I've got off this afternoon and then again tomorrow, so.
Well, I'm just conscious that staff have sat here for a while with the expectation of presenting. This has been in our calendars for a while. I don't want to appear aggressive here, but this is work that needs to be done. It's appropriate to do it. Yeah.
My other concern is the finance policies have actually got a chunk too. And I think we would need to schedule an additional time if we can get through a little bit today. Those are the trade-offs.
Yeah. So we'll kick in and we'll get through as much as we can. But I think we can probably get through the next lot in the next hour.
Don't get your own say.
Yes.
Come on, Duncan. You can do it. We're in it for the long haul. It's a fight.
John, you're good?
Yeah, we're good.
Thumbs up, righto.
I'm still recording.
Oh, well, we can.
Yeah.
I've got someone who can come here. Need be.
Sandra, you're good to stay? Thank you, that's appropriate. Let's move on. Thanks, Kendall.
Kia ora, good afternoon. Back again. I'm just doing the intro, so I'm going to hand over to Karen Smith, who's going to talk about youth play spaces.
Yeah. Youth play spaces, so it's a bit of an outlier in the LTP, but it's something that has come up a few times when we've spoken with aspects of the community whenever we've done playground renewals. So I think it's pretty pertinent that we start looking at this. We start to see the model evolve around the country in terms of what offerings are there for youth. And there's some pretty interesting things going on there. So the dollars that we put in there is based in and around what's been delivered already. But probably the most important bit of money is the money that we've got the first year of the project, which is going out and actually consulting and discussing what our youth want. Because it's not a cookie cutter solution from around the country. It's actually engaging with them where they are and what they wish to do. So that's youth play spaces in a nutshell, really.
I mean, a lot came out of the recreation and sports strategy around these too, so, yeah, good topic to discuss. And through the chair, there seems to be a lot more demand for the likes of shade sales and things, which I'm like, well, I don't want on your kids, but
yeah, too right. And I'll also would say, so since we've been doing the upgrade of the Taupō skate park, which is nearing completion, just for the coming up, there's been a lot of talk there. We asked for their feedback on the spaces and places we've got currently. There was want and need from the community in that space. We got some really good feedback there. So
Gee, one thing that made me laugh as well is, we spent $1 million on a playground and then everyone complains on really hot days the slide's hot.
Yeah.
That's like, well, Duncan probably shouldn't answer this, but would you take your kids for a swim in the lake midwinter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's balancing.
Yeah, it's actually real. Yeah.
So that's youth, but I'll jump on playgrounds shortly. I'll discuss.
Oh, so that's two different things.
Two separate things. Yeah, youth play spaces is a bit more of a community hub sort of style, and then playground renewal sort of sits over here.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Needs to be the more growing up.
The more growing up, sort of hang out in spaces. And,
The 11
yeah, with passive surveillance and all that fun stuff. So yeah.
Passive.
I'll jump into playground renewals if that's cool. So the last LTP, we had some really good buy-in from council then as well, just around our renewals program with our playgrounds. And we've got a lot of wins on the board in terms of upping the accessibility and surfacing types on offer in our playgrounds. Historically, it was all about bark. That was cheap, cheerful, upfront. Long term, though, as its life falls apart, it becomes about the same cost. Obviously, as well, with hotter summers and with the increase in plastic surfaces and rubber surfaces on playgrounds, heat does become a bit of a problem. So it's about tempering that and balancing that with some shade. I'm by no means suggesting shade sales on every square inch of a playground, but it's certainly balancing what we might be offering in that space. We do already have hierarchies in terms of our playgrounds and what we would be looking to offer in that area as well. The renewals that we've identified here, we've depreciated X amount 30 years ago when these playgrounds were built. Since then, playgrounds have seen an exponential increase in terms of cost. That's due to increased compliance, more regulation, more engineering needed for these playgrounds. So that's something that we've had to really take into account in our most recent renewals with Medi Road and Lakewood Drive, which are due to pick off end of October, November, have sort of been testament to that. Normally what we'd sort of get maybe half a dozen playgrounds, we get 2. So it's those sorts of things we're just working with the community. Through the next LTP, there is also a real opportunity to actually work with other playground providers, and I'm sort of purely looking at Ministry of Education and schools. And there is a taste for certain schools in certain areas of our community to partner with us to make some of their funding go a little bit further with our funding and then start becoming this community hub. So there's a really cool opportunity there. That will start filling some of our service level gaps that we have at the moment. But also we're pretty top heavy with playgrounds, just being a destination space. And there might be an opportunity to rationalise where we are pretty heavy and small, less than ideal playgrounds, be able to sort of pull them together to offer something that's decent, accessible for everybody, and has everything to make it a fun day out.
Through the chair, I would have thought Waipihi would be a good example of that. Like, you've got that Neil Group development going on up behind, what do I call it, the blue light wall, but it's not a Waipihi wall.
Yeah.
They're Waipihi Primary is spending a lot of money on upgrading playgrounds, so that to me would be a perfect.
That's one of the principals I've spoken to about that. Just in terms of,
Tim would be open to it.
he's massively open to it. And there's wider on that. The Waipihi Sports Ground there is an area we've earmarked at the moment, as well as the youth place development area too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so there's an opportunity there to turn that into probably a good training ground to something a little bit more as well. So.
Yeah, because that gully on the other side of Waipihi Reserve is used for bush school.
Yes,
by the
absolutely.
primary school as well. So
yeah, and that's another thing that through upskilling everybody in play space, it's not just about hard formalised play. Plays everywhere. So it's just
funny.
Plays even here. No.
Anything earmarked for a second skate park?
There was feedback, so that's part of this youth play spaces about incorporating some of that sort of design as well, and that's certainly something that I'm keen to see and keen to actually find the scope of too. So
yeah, signal some money quite a way out. I mean, obviously it needs a whole lot of work before we get to there, but I think we've signalled in the LTP at the far end of it that there's a new skate park, or whether it's a combination thing.
And is there a skate park in Turangi at the moment?
Yes.
It's a brilliant skate park in Turangi.
Wonderful, very popular.
With what we're seeing with our current skate park at Taupō, for example, so Mangakino's got a good skate park too. Taupō, it's not really conducive for scooters and sort of beginners. It's a great skate park for intermediate experienced and BMX. But having something on offer there as well. But that's part of our renewals program too, is looking at what other aspects can we sort of click on to current play areas too. So
and look at us as well. Earmarked for them, but they don't really have any youth play space out there either.
I'll pause there because I'm not too well informed of Kinloch, but Julie Gordon is massive. Good, great segue into
the next one, which is Kinloch.
So, have you read the Gisborne effort on the skate park a few years ago? The skate park, and they poured quite a lot of money into these, and it's quite a reasonably large one.
Massive one,
Yes, I mean, it'd be, there was obviously some commitment.
There's a big commitment there, so it's probably a good segue too. So I've actually got a meeting with Skate New Zealand in 2 weeks' time to actually talk about national focus on provision of skates. So we're not spending millions over here when there's already a world-class scene just around the corner. So it's about apples and oranges and how we sort of break that up, because otherwise we'll just be competing with everybody.
No, I mean, I think our skate park stuff there is it's not a good location. It's not a good location. It's not observable, for example. It's not. So security wise, it's.
If there was a second iteration of the skate park, it would be a far more central look to it, with more eyes and ears and a better layout and space.
Just there would be great, you know.
I think,
So, you know,
I think
it's not our land, but
Ministry of Education land, but we can always talk about it. But I think see in Mangakino and in Turangi, it was like bringing the skate parks right into the centre of town. Works a whole lot better. Taupō was built in a time of, we don't want these kids in town, let's push them out to the outskirts. And I think that's seen the sort of problems associated with that. So we're better off bringing them in if we can.
Just with regards to the youth drop-in centres, like what's the research around that and what's the feedback from Rangatahi with regards to that? I know we've been talking a lot about that space within Turangi. That was one of the main reasons as to why the Turangi Rangatahi Hub was created, was to actually in some way, shape or form create a hub through which, and actually some of the negotiations have progressed rather well over the last, just say, couple of months, which we're really excited about, which may be fully funded as well. So, but what are some of the feedback in around drop in the sector? I know from our perspective, they do want somewhere where potentially youth could stay overnight as well.
So we've
safety reasons and all that kind of stuff, but we know that brings a whole lot of policy and legislation around there to keep everyone safe. So was there any discussions around that?
No, that was the stage where we're purely looking at the recreation and wellbeing side of things. So
Just to supplement that, I had Blue Light ask about a youth hub by the skate park. Like they could actually oversee a lot of what's going on there as well, and I think that's worth looking into.
We'd welcome any partnership.
Years, like having had the youth portfolio for quite a while in the past, we've looked at this a number of times, and a building isn't going to fix a problem until we can identify what actually it is. And I think that we've recently had an example of building a building without the proper structure behind it first. So I think we've got to be really careful in this space, because we had a number of years ago, Anamata presented to the LTP, and it was an amazing concept. And we went so far as to designing a youth facility up by Waiora House, but a building's not going to fix some issues. There's probably other ways to fix issues than build something. It's a really tricky situation. And what are council's responsibilities in those wellbeing versus central government versus iwi versus whānau families? So it has definitely been something on the radar, but it's just a building's just not the fix it.
Yes, too, as we talk of hubbing, we've got Youth Town, we've got Blue Light, got, there's lots of people that could potentially work together to come up with a space and a governance structure that can work. So,
Oh, absolutely. It's to help advocate and facilitate those conversations is one thing, but having the ownership of it is probably quite different. But, yeah.
anyway, that's just the feedback that I've had through the recreation and sports strategy. Most of
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And Blue Line. Doing the same thing, but yeah.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Next.
I was maybe over on Tony.
Conveyor belt.
That's a conveyor belt. Yep. So, Kinloch. So, just before we hand over to Jules, I think, this really came from some annual plan, feedback. Well, no, from the community as well, through the annual plan, but and this is the whole thing, we're getting all of these disparate sort of what look a little bit disconnected kind of requests and sort of we've got a problem here. We haven't got, I guess the whole Kinloch problem from our point of view is that you've got much greater development going up Whangamata Valley, away from what is quite a small and constrained lakefront area with a big marina dug in the middle of it. And so from our point of view, it makes managing it hard. The domain just gets absolutely hammered. It's got a reserve management plan that says, you know, no vehicles. There's this little area here that we lease to the marina company and for parking, and that probably serves about a quarter, if we're lucky, of the number of cars and boat trailers that are all over that domain. It's an event space. It's all sorts. A lot of land movement in Kinloch. So I think it's something like 400 mils in 40 years or something that the area has dropped. So that means that the water tables are getting higher and we're dealing more and more with drainage issues and it's just getting wetter. So so there's a whole, and I don't want to go into all of the details of, but there's a whole lot of factors that come into this, and we think it's really calling out for a bit of a plan and a bit of a, so one of the things that we did in Mangakino with that lakefront, so slightly different area, but a lot of kind of conflict of activities. So by coming up with a bit of a plan, we consult with the community, we get all of that feedback, and then that enables us to kind of, now we're not going to please everybody, but we come up with a plan that actually suits the majority and we understand the issues. We haven't got that for Kinloch. And so I think what we really want to see here, we've signalled quite a bit of money, but that's right out in kind of year 8, 9, just to kind of signal that something needs to be done. But we really want a much smaller piece of money right at the front end of the LTP that we can actually develop a bit of a plan and get those conversations and get that community feedback coming in and try and figure out just how we deal with it.
Yeah, 100% agree. Sooner rather than later, because it's the same thing coming up at the rep group.
Yeah.
Every single meeting.
And of course, it's, you know, for me, I'm part of that community. I live there, I service that community, and hence why I guess in our team I seem to be the expert, but not really. It's we've got to go to the community and ask them what they want to use that domain for. They want it as a car park, cool. So let's put some money in and let's see that. But then also bearing in mind that a lot of that beachfront there doesn't even belong to us. We're very privileged to be able to use it. To allow the community, and it's acknowledging all of that as well. It's actually going, right, are we taking everything away from there from a car perspective? Is it just a people place? So, you know, they're going to be, well, my terminology, picking a few scabs off, but let's have those conversations. Let's really nut out what that community want and make some plans from there. So yes, like Greg said, it's for now, it's just a little bit of money very early next year that we can actually start that consultation, that engagement, and actually figure it out, because operationally, not just parks, but the whole team, we get knocked around quite a bit by that community, and really what we have to actually work with is minimal. So
So just with Chair, and I know this probably goes across a couple of different groups, like Scott's area and whatnot, but I think this is a really good idea for Kinloch because, you know, you look at the hall, you look at the kindergarten, you look at the lakefront, you look at the domain and all of that stuff. Like, what are the priorities? Like, that's, you know, if you want to have your cake and eat it too, you can have all that, but we can't afford to do all of that. And this is a community of interest for a set amount of people, even though it's very popular in summer as a destination. But where is the best bang for buck, and what are your priorities out of all these projects? Which ones are the priority for you as a community? Because we can't do it all.
Will this tie in with the structure plan as well, or we're doing this as a completely separate piece of work? Because that's 20 odd years old.
I think the structure plan will be a different piece of work. It'll be looking, so we'll drag the structure plan into our future development strategy. So all the structure plan will be pulled together along with 2050, and that's going to be focused on where's housing going, do we need to do anything with commercial zoning, and what are our infrastructure constraints and how have they changed. So that's what that's going to focus on. This more community focused planning around specific assets.
Yeah, this is very much what we're doing with what we've got currently down at the lakefront, and we can't expand that, or we could look at something maybe further away, but this is about how we manage that. Really, that lakefront.
The only reason I ask that is because you've obviously got members of the community who are really focused on that structure plan being the rule book. And then you've got others who are wanting to see some changes within the community. So you've got the community hall aspect in that domain, right? Do we add on to a building that's already not really fit for purpose? Do we work in with the, you know, the kindergarten?
Yeah.
All of this, and they want, you know, more zoning for commercial space. So there's quite a lot going on out there.
And for the Chair, they they also need a good road and network to and from to enable use. So
We've got one of those coming on the list too.
Yeah.
I support that.
I think there's a great opportunity for, you know, our team, next team, to be actually talking to the community and saying, well, look, this is what this part's about. This is what this part's about.
Yeah, it's helping them see how it all how it might all weave together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's us. Thank you.
Yeah. On that, we will segue into Scott. Thanks, Julie and Greg.
Thank you.
Is segue like your word of the day?
I don't know, it might be. I'll come up with another one next time.
Look at it, I just keep thinking of that device, you know, segue.
Oh.
So it's not, it's the same word, but it's, I had to figure it out.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. One of the items we submitted into the long-term plan is a feasibility study for Kinloch Hall. It is quite micro comparative to a lot of the other items on the agenda today, but I wanted to raise it so that I know this has been a discussion many times over. So what I'm proposing is that we do because obviously there's talk amongst the community around moving the kindy, there's talks around is the hall fit for purpose. So we're looking to put some money into the first year of LTP to do some of that work. So that would scope out its usage, architectural design. Does it need to be bigger? Does it need to be the same? Does it just need to be renewed? Does it need to be extended? Does it need to be moved because it kind of sits in almost like a slight puddle? Photo sent to me this week of the back garden area flooding. Also, what we've just recently done is we've implemented something that's called Space to Go, which goes to all of our community halls, which allows us to manage and monitor every single booking that's taken in all of our halls. And that's going to give us the data, which then will feed into us to be able to do a proper district-wide community hall strategy, so that everything starts to align. So at this point, it's more around just the building itself. I didn't want to put too much money further down in any later years until we understand what that feasibility study spits out. Yeah, and that's pretty much the size of it also. And also, I know you guys have been talking about the kindy, so if you wanted to talk about that as well, or you want to say another day, one.
I don't know if we've got any more to add to the kindy discussion.
Yeah.
We've talked that through and through. We're a bit stuck there.
Yeah.
How we can even try to help.
Yeah, so just on that, and the way that I'm able to help slightly is their current lease expires on I think November, December this year. So what we're proposing is we're going to give them a year, 1+1, so that lets them have some time to try and figure out how they do their new build and so on and so forth. But that's something that I will bring to the TRC yourselves for that kind of authorisation. That's something you want to proceed with. Easy. Any questions?
Yeah, what you've got agreement?
Thanks very much.
Well, was easy. Next.
Oh, got the fleet. Scott, you're back.
Yeah, and also.
I thought it was the summer concert. Some concerts are really good.
Good.
It's getting on a bit by now, I think.
They still got it.
Okay, for those of you that don't know, Deb Atkinson, she's our asset and fleet manager for the organisation.
Welcome.
Over to you.
Oh, okay.
5 minutes.
So 4 million, I think you've seen in the project, that's over 3 years. First year, we're looking at about 2.3, including renewals of the general fleet, but also with this new building that's happening as we speak. We are looking at spending a bit of money on the electrification for electric vehicles. So that was not part of the overall scope. So we need to allow for that. And we're probably looking at around 4.5 to 5K per unit for each car. We're looking at around 12 to 15 cars. That will include tūpari toa as well, 1 or 2. There'll be a combination of trickle feed and rapid charging. And we need to transition, of course, over to electric vehicles, which we sadly only have 1 in our fleet right now, but we do have around 26 hybrids, so that's good. And so, yeah, so there's a bit of a upfront cost around all of that stuff. So that's kind of makes up the bulk of that 2.3 for the first year of the LTP. And then there is a general renewal program, which we really do need to try and keep on top of to keep our fleet as up to date as possible, and also get rid of some of those dirty old diesels that we're running out there.
Yeah, and so one of the main drivers for this is around the environment policies and the movement of the organisation is or the path the organisation is wanting to take. But obviously to do that, and as I'm sure you're all aware, electric vehicles, there's obviously quite a capital layout. They're a lot more expensive. They're quite hard to get hold of at the moment, so we're trying to anticipate the inflated costs of those as well. So that's the kind of the explanation of the funding that's required.
That wasn't initially part of the scope for the building. I presume it has been looked at now because the power supply
Yes.
is
Correct.
huge.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
so we've been talking to the base build. All that infrastructure is being put in and it's being wired.
Yeah.
And
Is that
future
a
proof.
cost or the building cost?
It's to the building cost to a certain point, and then we pay for it thereafter.
Yeah. So this,
The outlets, but they're paying for the main
they're paying for the
power for us to be able to
yeah.
to be able to provide it, and then we pay for it
But they'll be
thereafter.
using-
That the actual allocation of parking spaces on the ground floor hasn't been fully determined between us and Tūrangi Tower. I believe from memory they have I think they've only got like 2 spaces. It's not a lot. So
Oh, well, that's good.
and we're currently looking at about 16 to 18 ceiling fed charging cables.
Yeah, I just know that the power requirements are astronomical, so
Yeah.
glad that's in the scope.
to comment and question, is there any access via ECA funding? Because they've got big projects going on at present for large organisations. Have you looked at anything to do with ECA?
ECA has loaned.
They have loans.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I mean, they're absolutely big, especially on large organisations. So really something like that. The other thing is too, like with your electric cars, the staff normally take cars home, or do they leave them at work?
Currently, there is a number of vehicles going home. But the plan is for us to, I actually want to decrease our fleet, not increase it. And being that we're going to be in town, we'll be able to pull in a lot of vehicles, and then it will be a pull sort of thing. But we do have a few going home at the minute because of the security around some of those offices. There's just nowhere to put them at night.
No, well, because and that's the comment really, because you know, I have an electric car, and most cars are charged overnight,
Correct.
Of course, at a very cheap rate. So your difference between your night charge and your day charge is huge. I mean, I come up here, you know, at least 3 days a week, and it's put about $100 on my monthly bill, as opposed to $100 a week, in terms of charging. So if you talk to people like ChargeNet, they will tell you that actually overnight is the charging that people do, and the actual charging at the office or wherever you happen to be is between 10 and 2, when people are sort of getting a little bit anxious about their range, and they just usually need a top up. They actually don't fully charge.
That's right. Correct.
So you know all of that stuff.
Yeah, and that's what we're planning on. So that's why I said the trickle feed. We have more trickle feed so that they can, and they'll be, and I'm talking pool cars here, not the whole fleet, because we've only got allocations for about 15 or something down below, that will actually feed this. So the majority will be trickle feed overnight, but we will need to have a couple of fast charging for the mayor and stuff like that.
You will reduce actually fuel costs, energy costs. I mean, this is going to be changing to electric, but it'll be actually, and truly they're not that all expensive.
Yeah, they're getting, it's interesting. But you know, we've I would have loved to have had more in the fleet up to now, but we just physically haven't been able to do it.
Electric car, electric bus for Tūrangi. There you go.
Don't want that on the choice. Moving on.
Thank you.
Duncan.
Yeah, so what's the necessity for you changing the fleet now? Are they owned or leased, or what is the story? We own them. So the vehicles are old?
No,
they're what?
We are transitioning towards that EV, especially in the cars. We just can't get away from the utes right at this very minute, with the work that's currently being done by them. But the car fleet, especially the pool fleet, I've got more hybrids than actual petrol cars now, which is a good thing. But as we move into the new building, I'm definitely looking at doing electric rather than hybrid. So
I mean, I had great hesitation about this whole fully electric thing, to be honest. I really don't go along with it. Hybrids, I can, well, especially you're telling me we're not really replacing them for, the fleet needs replacing, because, you turn over vehicles just for economic renewals. Generally, if you're replacing them anyway, what would you replace them every 5 years? Just that's the economics, isn't it?
Yeah, some depends on the vehicle, depends on the choice. Some are 3 years, some are 5 years. But also just wanted to say that part of before we move into the CAB building, it's about 18 months or so, we're looking at developing revisiting our fleet strategy, so that actually aligns with the moving into the CAB as well. So those two pieces of work are being done at the same time.
Oh, I see. And the CAB is supposed to be built
first quarter of 2025.
Okay. No, well, I don't agree with the fully electric solution, to be honest. I really think it's a bad idea.
Well, in the business case, all this will be captured.
Everything I say is my opinion. I'm very sceptical that that's a good way of going. Well, I mean, I'm not the only one out there who is very sceptical, and I don't think it's a wise use of resources. It's not a good long-term decision, and I'm interested though. after the government changes, whether this, because a lot of this zero carbon 2050 is driven by the current government. I'll be interested to see if the new government flips that over.
Well, having just read through the current leader of the opposition's stated goal, still committed to net zero by 2050, but thank you for that. Moving on.
Right.
That's it.
That's
Very
it.
much.
Thank you.
Any questions? Here we go. That was the what's next.
Our investment project.
Please introduce yourself to the team. Just kidding. PK, welcome.
Sure, thank you.
Close.
We're meeting next month for a couple of hours to talk specifically about housing, so we'll have time to delve into the details. And there's a couple of business cases. There's one business case for the EUL land, that a full business case. At the moment, we're trying to get it back down from 10,000 words. But there is a very succinct summary there for you to go through. And there's also a business case also for the commercial land that we're looking to develop. It's aptly named investment. For every dollar we spend, we're getting more money back, which is good from a financial perspective. But we're also looking to, through this project, just alleviate some of the housing pressure that's really evident in Taupō. Has been evident since at least 2007, when there was some reports done. And if you look back through old newspaper reports, and it's been with us for a long time, 20, 30 years, maybe even longer. The ability to get into a house at affordable rates, and for people that are on medium to low incomes, working hard and striving to get on the ladder, but just can't get there. So this project here has the potential for us to, because we own the land and are developing the land ourselves, to ensure that the houses that are built on it are built in such an affordable way that allows people that otherwise wouldn't be able to get onto it. Kind of through a bit of an intervention to work with some developers, some development consortium that will be encouraged strongly to abide by the 2008-2009 master plan that the EUL was based around, which is medium to high density, to try and change the current model of housing, which is those 600 or 700 square metre sections with a 3 or 4 bedroom house on it that kind of hits the market around 1.1 million. So we're trying to achieve about half of that, a 2-bedroom home at about $550,000, a 3-bedroom home at about $650,000 entry level home, allow people to get on the ladder, and about a mix of about a third. So houses that through the neighbourhood, when you drive through, you wouldn't notice the difference between an affordable home and a market home, nicely integrated. We've already begun. We've got earthworks going on there. Through the annual plan, we've got $7.5 million for stage 1A of our project. Stage 1B, we're looking for some additional funding in year one, the long-term plan, and then we're sort of looking to roll it out throughout the 10-year long-term plan period. There's opportunities on the way through to mix it up a bit. We can go with a developer and a development partner. We can sell a lot. We've still got control of the remaining 100 or so hectares, 60 or so hectares that are left. So we can control the release of it to meet the market. We can control the lease of it to encourage this affordable housing that we're trying to achieve. We could also work with government agencies and things as opportunities come along for us to jump on the bandwagons of another shovel ready, for example. So opportunity to go through that. We'd also talk about the commercial land in about the same vein, really. We've got commercial land, it's locked up at the moment, partly through contact covenants, which have recently been lifted. We're doing some work in the Mahoe Street. We're about to release 3 lots there. We're just waiting for title. About to do some work in 204 Crown Road. And in the long-term plan, we're also talking about doing some work in the Digger McEwen Motorcycle Club land there, which we've just renewed a lease on. So that was a 14-year lease. That was 14 years ago, somebody with great foresight allowed for a second 14-year term on that piece of land, but with a 2-year demolition clause, if you like. So within 2 years, anywhere in this next 14-year term where we've just signed up with them on a peppercorn lease, it allows us to given 2 years notice to say, look, we're going to develop this land because it's going to work for Taupō District Council, going to work for the Taupō District. It's going to unlock some of this commercial light industrial land. And we'll endeavour to assist them find an alternative location. And we have hooked up the president of the motorcycle club with Contact Energy to see if we can begin those early conversations. So that's the kind of next block of land that we're looking to do some development on in the next two.
Any questions?
Well, we'll see in a couple of weeks.
I'll save them for then. Thanks, Phil. Appreciate that.
Cool, right, now we have Claire and Roger, I'm not sure if Dennis is no, Dennis is not participating. Talking about transport projects.
Afternoon.
Claire.
Finally.
Welcome.
What's the last?
Yeah, so we'll just start with the Whangamata road safety improvements. So I'm not sure whether some of you may be aware. We undertook a safe system assessment on Whangamata Road, and from that we developed a Whangamata Road strategy. So this project is just to basically flow through the recommendations that came out of that strategy. We're currently in stage 2, so we've done a guard barrier on stage 1. Stage 2, we're looking at footpaths and some minor seal widening. And then, so this is just a continuation of that project, shoulder widening, barriers at high crash corners, etc. So, and that's over 7 years.
Potential for subsidy, I think, possibly on that.
Subsidy on Mata Road. So we've put it forward as a project in the low cost, low risk waka kotahi.
The other aspect to this, if we make part of it a growth project, potential to add that development contribution to part of it, so it helps with the financing aspect of it.
Thank you.
Well, so that, I mean, it's Whangamata Road, okay. So safety crashes are happening. That's what we're doing them for.
Basically, it was a safe assessment, safe system assessment was completed, and it looked at all the crash history and the high risk corners. There were loss of controls. There's cars going off from Mata Road into Paddock. So there's a whole lot of yeah, it is around safety.
And what carriageway widening for cyclists? So
there is some, yeah. So later in I think 5, 6, 7, there's shoulder widening for cyclists, because that is quite an important training loop for Ironman, etc.
yeah, no, I mean, all that area is pretty narrow, fast. But so we talk about super elevation changes, calcium box, right, or safe road safety barriers.
There's some road safety barriers on the high risk corners. There's shoulder widening, and then in the later years we'll be looking at pavement renewal.
Oh, okay. So for any particularly bad corners,
We just addressed one corner last financial year. So that was the high risk corner where vehicles were going off road into Paddock. So that one's been addressed. So we're just working through as we go. So this is just budget.
No, okay. Have you used calcine bauxite around here at all?
No, it's not widely used here.
Oh, no, okay.
Right. Next. Thank you.
So the next one is the shared path on Lake Road in Mangakino. This was raised by the Waikato River Trails for the link from the Mangakino end of Lake Road, or the lakefront at Mangakino, up to the, I think it's sort of a little gully through there that links back into the river trail. So it's basically getting people, cyclists, off Lake Road as a safety thing. We've also had the Mangakino community raise a possible footpath link along Lake Road to the cemetery. So this will cover, we'll look at extending the scope to actually cover that as well, so that will tie that community request off.
So I'm familiar with where the trail, the river trail comes out and just spills out onto grass verge and then you're on the road. So look, great, thank you for that.
Just through the chair, Claire, Kirsty's mentioned a couple of times before about a gravel pit. Is it in Whakamaru? Near the gas station? Sorry.
I can speak to that.
I just need to bring it up.
No, that came up at the last rep group and I'm talking about, that's actually on a state highway. So it's a
okay.
that ties spare material storage area rather than a gravel pit. And what was agreed at the last rep group is that would have a look at how much traffic there actually was through that crossing of the footpath, see if there was any different than a save entrance or anything else. Work out whether there was any risk that existed there that we could then use to talk to Wakatai about.
Okay, that's cool. Just covering off Kirsty's list.
Cool, thank you. Claire?
The next one is Poihipi Road, Hooker Falls Road. So this is probably, should really be Poihipi Road, Wairiki Drive, Hooker Falls Road South. So this is basically just a placeholder for a proposed roundabout. So it's based on the plan change at Nukahau, and will all depend on what the timing is for the Northern Gateway connection.
Have you got that outside the 10-year?
Yes, that's currently just a placeholder. I think it's out in year 10, 11, 12.
Well, what does it depend on the gateway thing?
Is the diversion of Poihipi Road to
if that happens to be the
junction of the developers moving ahead there.
So it was all part of the private plan change. That was part of the submissions. That was also part of the decision moving Poihipi Road, because a whole lot of land swaps went on. There's quite a bit of history in relation to that. And the roundabout at that location was front and centre of that particular decision. Just by way of history.
Next one is the seal extension. So this is a continuation of our seal extension program. We currently do about 2 Ks of seal extension a year. So this is budget over, I think we've got it out over 8 years. So and we base seal extension on a number of criteria: dust, properties, traffic volumes, number of times it needs grading, etc., etc.
Just through the chair, with the Tarahonga Poihipi intersection, and it's always come back from the Mangakino rep group about lighting there. Is that
we do have a project in our long-term plan for flag lighting at high risk intersections. So that's.
And does that also include God, the name escapes me, with a lot of Rakanui, there's a lot of more commercial development out there, but no street lights.
There's another project.
Oh, cool, brilliant.
Move on. Lake Terrace, Ruapehu Street. So this is part of the TTC project, and it's looking at a speed platform on the corner of Ruapehu into Lake Terrace. Will also provide a safer crossing point for those people that are going to the Love Taupo sign. That's just on that.
Through the chair, would that be done? What year is that in? Because we're going to have that eventually development on that corner.
We've got it in for year 1 and 2 at this stage.
Is that tying in with the resale? Well, I mean, obviously it'll be after that.
Yeah. So that's where Lake Terrace goes.
It's the bend.
Yeah.
Yeah. That didn't actually be, because that didn't actually appear to be an obvious place to me, actually, because I mean, obviously the other side of Ruapehu Street, you can walk along there, you don't need to cross anything.
A lot of people walk from McDonald's down to Ruapehu and then cross that corner to the
And how much, have you got a dollar figure on that or?
Got $300,000 over 2 years.
Is that one of those raised things? I don't have the technical terminology.
Raised thing is fine.
Okay.
So is it gonna be just concrete or special? Because there's all sorts of.
We will need to do investigations into what it was.
No, I mean, I'm just saying, yeah, I mean, that sort of location would appear to me that if you're gonna do a flash one with slate or granite or, I've seen them done that way, that they cost a bomb. Well, that would be easy enough to cover, I'm sure, but rather than just plain concrete or asphalt, kind of dull.
Yeah, like, is your question, are we trying to make it a feature?
Feature, yeah, because that's been done, that's often done around the place.
I don't think Fraser's had his opportunity to cast his pen across this yet, so yeah, I think I'm hearing it's more functional than feature.
No, okay, well, just encouraged to think about a feature, because if you can do it anywhere, that would be it, I would imagine.
That's good input. So.
Thanks for that.
Next one on the list is Tauhara Road and AC Baths. So we've currently got.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited about that one.
Swimming on a Wednesday is a nightmare.
Yeah, I drive down that way a lot.
Tell us what the plan is, then we can all share.
Well, the plan is we're going to investigate either a roundabout or a platform, another platform or angle
Roundabout.
Let's not jump to solutions.
Whatever we propose there, we need to actually provide a connection from Mount View Primary School to AC Bars, because that is the main crossing point. So, yeah, we're just going to have to factor in pedestrian and cycle connections at that intersection as well as safety.
Because it's all on an angle. No one knows who to give way to. It's a mess. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, so how much did you have set aside for that one?
Over 3 years, we've got 1.48 million.
Yes, it seems to me as if could be doing a lot cheaper.
Anyway,
for a similar
We could
result.
be, but let's leave it with the staff to deal with that.
Well, these are some of the line items I was actually attempting to dig into for now, just to see if we might be overspending on some things.
Finance coming up.
Also, look, I just want to say as well, there's a distinction between having a budget line and it's not a target. I think someone said that. Yeah, so it's not the intention isn't that we spend up to this amount. It's best estimate at this stage, but from a deliverability perspective, obviously I'm going to want us to return change out of every one of these projects.
One job.
Show me the money.
Lake Terrace and Mary Street activation, which sounds very exciting. We've actually got in year 3, 35K to actually look at what we do with Mary Street and Lake Terrace. I think some of you were at the workshop talking about Lake Terrace resurfacing. We just wanted to actually get an idea of what the traffic on the network is going to do for Mary Street. Because what we don't want to do is put all our heavy vehicles down Mary Street and annoy a lot of the residents. So year 3, we've got an investigation just to look at what we can possibly do there.
Have you contemplated just a heavy vehicle ban? I mean, that's actually a simple sign that would. You know, I'm just saying, Mary Street seems to be it's the most direct route to town. It's a, but of course, if you worry about heavy vehicles, that would be a.
Next to it, from a Bible.
Lots of work. But yep, we can look into it. Just yes or no, an option. No.
Back to you, Claire.
Yeah, so in year 3 we've got 35K, and then it's whatever we do in year 7 and 8. So they're just placeholders at this point. Rifle Range and Mary Street intersection. This, we're actually looking at proposing a roundabout to realign that Hugh Rifle Range sort of dead dog leg part, and try and slow traffic down and make it safer for pedestrians and cyclists there as well.
If I stuck my oar in there again, just because I have actually looked at this one specifically, yeah, that I think you could, because I saw the number figure on that, it seemed quite large for what I would be thinking of spending a location of that, and certainly even two little roundabouts. So I think realigning it is quite extravagant. But I think you could address that, make a good improvement for 300,000 or 400,000 at most.
I don't think the team have landed on what the
Yeah,
solution.
these are just
No,
placeholder
it's
figures,
just for-
and
just
we
for-
have,
yeah.
we have, funding proposed in, I can't remember what year it was, to actually look at investigation and design and what options we can do there. So we haven't done that option assessment.
Well, that's what I was interested in, is, you know, line items for each little individual project. I would have thought it might have made simpler sense, especially for at this, you know, long-term plan stage, just to have a certain number of million for a bunch of safety projects around the district, and that's all you need at this stage.
Yes.
Well, except for the first year or two, but yeah.
So, you know, we've got lighting upgrades that are line items. We've got some generic ones. Transport's been much more granular than the rest of the portfolio, to be fair, and has broken things up. Not sure how much that's related to Whakatāi funding requirements.
Through the chair, what you're referring to is when we used to have minor safety improvement budget that was based on 8% of your maintenance program, which 10 years ago changed to 5%. So you could use 5% of whatever your maintenance budget would become a minor safety improvement line. Waka Kotahi now, due to the funding requirements, actually need all the projects listed out as low cost, low risk. So that's why you're seeing a lot of breakdown in projects specifically.
No, okay. I mean, it's just. I mean, I'm just saying it's throwing. It's kind of throwing numbers at stuff because you have to. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, okay. Get through the paperwork. That's all I can see.
Well, the alternative is we don't get through the paperwork, we don't get the money from NZTA, and we're left stuck where we are. So anyway, Claire, moving on.
Wariki Drive Steambridge cyclone pedestrian connection. Now this one has come up through Waka Kotahi's SIP project, which is safety infrastructure projects. And that came up through the crossing point from Wariki Resort to BP. That's actually been highlighted as quite a dangerous section of Wariki Drive. And also the connection across the Steam Bridge for cyclists. That's very tight.
This is also one Councillor Leonard mentioned would like to connect the BP all the way to the village. So we've taken that scope point on board as well.
Can I ask a question there? What's the speed limit there?
80 k's. So yes, so as Andrew said, we'd be looking at doing some connections from that area to Wariki Village and across Wariki Drive. Next one I've got is Crown Road and Napier Road intersection. Now this is to tie in with the EUL development, so that's a proposed roundabout at the end of Crown Road, Napier Road. So where the EUL will come out.
So, sorry, just through the chair, so you mean the extension of Crown Road on the other side?
So I think the road coming through will be Tahara Ridge Drive from
right.
the EUL. So where that lands, we're looking at a proposed roundabout at that intersection.
Makes sense. What is that? Sorry.
Year 5.
Okay.
That's also potential for a development contribution as a growth project. And it will be either way. It's yes.
Either way, we're paying.
Either way, at the moment councils the sole bid But growth project, however, go over the district wide is because we currently have a transportation DC that's district wide. So any project that gets identified as growth, because that's going to be a key area there. We've got a lot of commercial and supermarket proposed to be there. So we're expecting the traffic to be a large amount of traffic growth up there.
President, I'm absolutely, yes, you know that, don't you? Yeah, it's almost. Yeah.
No. I said an hour and I think we hit it. Oh, just one last question, sorry.
I do know that the people over in Kuratau have flagged consistently the area in front of the playground alongside the hall. Is that something that comes into your area of expertise?
There's actually a project in the long-term plan
Oh,
for a Moree Road playground parking. So
Please let them know, because it's like, you know, it's constant and they do feel like it's not got anywhere. So thank you, Jessica. Thank you.
I'm keeping that as something to take away if they can get enough time at the AGM.
Please, please, thank you.
So Thea, did you have Tauhara Road and Spa Road intersection? You know, that funny go round Spa Road, yeah, Centennial Driveway.
Bear with me because it's quite specific.
That's a terrible one too.
Yes, got that out in year 8, 9, 10.
I remember when they looked good.
Yeah. And sorry, while you're there, the Tauhara Road and AC Bars Ave, when's that set down for? What year? Probably 9, 10.
1, 2, 3.
Yay. Okay, that's good.
Did you mention Napier Highway, Lake Terrace?
Duncan speaking. No, go ahead.
Oh, Lake Terrace, Napier Highway. Is that anywhere?
Yeah, I've got that out at Lake Terrace 567.
What's that in for? Anything I can think of at the time?
What about State Highway 1 between Turangi and Taupo?
That's a long way. Can you look into that one too?
The signs
No,
required,
no.
or heavy vehicles?
I've got to go around
They gotta go around.
Awesome, thank you. Appreciate that. Kendall, back to you.
Oh, hey, look, I just want to say thank you for coming along today and sticking it out. These are the hard days, but they're really helpful to staff. So I know that Andrew will be especially appreciative of all the input. So he looks stoked. He looks very stoked. But no, I just wanted to say thank you again, and please let us know if you have any other questions. We are continuing to do this refining of all of these budgets and things like that to get the modelling to our finance team as best as we can. But yeah, no, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Pardon?
Us team, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Thanks to all the staff who have been here today and presented. Your input is appreciated.
Just demonstrates how much diversity we've got in the organisation that's going on. So that was CapEx, OpEx to come.
So just from my understanding is I was listening and I didn't hear much. Move this out, move this in. There's a couple of comments about some intersections. Be good to bring them in. I think we've just got some deliverability issues in the first couple of years, so I don't want to take on too much. But besides that, sounds like the second slide I put up, which was the sort of pessimistic delivery option, looks about right, where we're hovering pretty much just under 80 million for the next 10 years, reasonably flat. We use that as a working model for the CapEx program.
And we're going to have to come back once we see how OpEx and the funding lines up, and we're back tweaking it again. So what I heard is not a lot of red flags to take it off the table. We'll see if we can continue to sort of manage.
Line items like, okay, you set aside 2 million, but you end up spending 1 million. That means we can go do something else we think of for $1 million.
I'm not sure how that works. I was thinking I'd come back here and be a hero and say we spent $1 million less than we thought.
Well, Actually, not, that's a good point, Douglas. I'm not sure that works that way because it will become a capacity issue, not just financially, but the ability of the contracting sector to deliver on it, which brings me to a question around the so-called bow wave we've suffered from for a while. With your pessimistic one, what impact is it going to have on that?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. What I'm hoping to do by the end of this financial year is get to a point where, and I've spoken to Jeanette about this already, is that we stop carrying things over unless there's a really good reason. So we've got this wave that crashes on us one after the other. And what I'd like to do is actually complete the work that we've said we'll do so that the plan for each year is actually as planned.
The reality check within what you've looked at over the next 10 years would be the ability to deliver that.
Yeah.
Not the financial side of it, but the physical, actually, can we get this done side of it? Yeah.
Just from a practicality perspective, when we've ended the workshop, we either have to end the recording and end the workshop or carry on.
Sorry.
If we wish to continue just to have a discussion afterwards, we can do that, but
still recording for the moment, that's fine.
Yeah.
So for the sake of transparency, this part of the conversation is probably best recorded and included in it. Yeah.
Yeah, so my answer is fundamentally as an organisation, we should be able to deliver this.
Thank you.
Very good. Yeah. Fingers crossed behind your head.
No. So
okay, thanks.
As an organisation, so there's a whole bunch of external constraints that are going to affect individual things, and that's what we are tracking, and that's what I'm trying to be as transparent as possible with every performance report to show how we're tracking against them.
No, exactly. So are we all done? Sounds like an option.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. End the workshop there. Push the button.
Thanks, John.